Hi, I'm Samina. I know I'm not the perfect communicator. I stumble a lot with my words, and there are times where I just don't make any sense. And I also use ums or pause a lot or whatever, but guess what? That's just me. Even after over 800 Facebook Lives in a row, I'm still not perfect. I still get awkward at times. I still get nervous at times. You would think I would have, I would just be this perfect pro doing a Facebook Live and have it perfect every step of the way, every time. Guess what? That is not the case, especially like this when I'm about to share something very significant with you about this is why I do what I do. That's what I'm going to share with you. And at times I am going to feel awkward and nervous and want to say things in the right way. But I'm just going to go with it. I loved my work so much. I loved the people I worked with, my clients, those people I had connection with. I loved leading those support groups, and I was really in my realm there. And I just had this hope that one day I would be a full-time social worker at that local charity. And now I find out that this person who I groomed and who I mentored, who I brought on myself, gets hired without even me knowing anything. I even find out from a confidential source that he is that just before he was hired that he is going to be hired, and I'm not even told at first. It's like I found out by accident. And so I just felt really invisible as an employee, like I didn't matter anymore. My contribution, my work there didn't matter. And I just felt so lost, and my anxiety, my fears just grew. And what even got even worse and went downhill from there, that same summer, I find out, again, accidentally, that my dad gets diagnosed with cancer that same summer. I meet and I'm just crushed, and the family is trying to protect me, and I found out by accident, like I figured it out, so the family had to tell me. They didn't tell me because they knew what an obsessive worrier I am. I actually had an addiction to worry, and I would just they knew how much I would worry. And so they didn't want to worry me by sharing this piece of information, so they're trying to protect me. And so I get this meeting with my employer, and I share with her my situation. And I also share with her that I can no longer work those extra hours I've been working for 6 years. And I gave all the facts, my schedule, and it's just not feasible anymore. Share the situation, what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing, everything. And stuff happens there. And then to my actually surprise, she just yells at me and says that I still have to work all those overtime hours. We all do. And to my shock, she actually shuts me down and says we all have to work those overtime hours, and that I'm expected to still work those overtime hours no matter what. And basically she yells at me that the people outside of the room could hear. Were walking by, and I left just even so embarrassed. I've never spoken up before at this workplace. I always kept to myself and just did my job, and was always afraid of speaking up. I was not a person to speak up, whether I liked something or not. I was timid, I was shy, I was afraid, and the whole time I was afraid of losing my job. And especially with what happened with witnessing 2 of the employees, my co-workers that I worked with, get fired as a result of this student getting hired, I just knew somehow my gut, or felt it, I'll be next. And so I go down in my office, I shut the door, and I start just bawling out in tears. I feel so embarrassed, and I told myself I'm never going to speak up again. I wish I had not spoken up. Now what? I made matters worse. It didn't resolve anything. And then the fear grew, the anxiety grew. I shared this with my mentor and a very close friend of mine, who's also become a close friend of the family, and he was at the time too taking me through this 12-step process. So as part of this 12-step process, it's actually got to share, all the resentments or feelings or experiences you're going through for actually the process to work. So he was like a priest. In confidence, I would share with him what was happening and the things that I was experiencing. And he actually suggested that I do go to my boss, give her the benefit of the doubt, and share with her what's going on with my family. I can no longer work these hours. I'm getting really stressed out and overwhelmed. It's like I was putting in more hours at this place caring for these strangers than I was at home caring for my dad. And that was the situation. And my mentor actually, whenever he got a chance, drove me into work. My dad used to drive me into work, but as my dad was going through his treatment, cancer treatment, my mentor drove me to work. And he saw for the first time, like, my hands would shake, even just going into the office. Like, my heart would beat, it would get sweaty. I remember even at times it became so bad that I remember at times sitting in my office working or trying to work, and I would hear footsteps coming down, and I would think, oh my gosh, that's someone, like, so paranoid. Oh my gosh, that must be someone coming down, my boss coming down to tell me that I'm fired or let go. And literally I would think that every time I would hear footsteps coming down those stairs. I was hiding in my office. I closed my door, didn't want to see anyone except my clients, and just really kept to myself. That's how bad the situation got. And so I was continuing to work all these extra hours, and my mentor just knew. And my mentor saw me, and just witnessed me working all these hours, and he knew he had to take matters in his own hands. And so, he saw me working all these hours, and he said to himself, as close as he was to the family, this is not right. I'm spending more time with these strangers than I am with my dad. And like I said, he's also a good friend, and he knew me very well for like 7-8 years. So he knew me very well. He had a connection, a history there. And he just knew he had to take matters in his own hands because I wasn't going to do anything. I was like shut down. I became a dead soul. I was literally now running on being a robot, going into work, doing my work, trying to be present with my clients, and even, you could say, in denial, right, at that time. So I had, of course, again, my mental well-being was just so more and more just in distraught. And I couldn't, like, all I could think about was that moment, or couldn't even, like, he just knew I wasn't in a position to do anything at that point. My boss just really scared me off, and I was just in shock. And so he had to take matters in his own hands, because he knew that if I don't take time off to spend with my dad, that I could end up regretting it, and he wasn't going to have that. And I was too afraid now at this point, based on the reaction from my boss and witnessing 2 employees, after standing up for themselves, speaking up for their rights, getting fired, that I would be next. And in my mind, I said to myself, I can't lose this job. I can't lose my purpose. And yes, it was paying me. Even though it wasn't paying me, the amount. Even though it wasn't paying me close to the amount that, even though it's paying me close to minimum wage, but that wasn't just it for me. It's like, I was very attached to my career, to my job, and I was just afraid of losing it, because in my mind I thought, this is it, I won't get another job. My self-esteem and self-confidence was that low. That was my belief system back then. And so I just want to first emphasize my mentor never does anything without anyone's permission, let alone an intervention, if that's what you want to call it. But he knew at this point with me, he needed to take matters in his own hand. And so what he did, after he just saw the constant fear, the constant anxiety, the constant worry I was going through, I couldn't even focus with what I was doing with him, what he was teaching me. It was just so bad. And so one day I'm at work and he got an inspiration to send this beautiful video message to the president of the board of my charity that I was working for, local hospice. And it was so touching. I even, after he sent it, I even watched the video, and there was nothing in there that was inappropriate, that broke my confidence. It was actually just saying, hey, you know, Samina's going through a rough time right now. Her dad has cancer, and she's afraid to take time off of work. Would you just meet with her, talk to her, take her out for dinner or coffee? Maybe she'll feel safe to just share with you what's going on and how she's feeling. The message, well, at first when I found out that my mentor did this, because he knew if he asked my permission, it would be an absolute no. So he knew he had to just do this. That was in my best interest even before I knew it. And when I found out what he did, I panicked and I said, oh my gosh, what did you do? You shouldn't, I panicked. But then after, when he showed me the response from the board of the president of the board, who did respond to his video, to his email, I read it and it was very well received, and she was just so happy that he shared what he shared, acknowledged him for it, and agreed to his request, and it was just very well received. Then I calmed down, like, okay, this is good, this is good, this is a good thing. So stuff happened, and then the situation, of course, at work did improve. Then my mentor saw this opportunity, that this is our chance, and he asked me, we can get a board meeting and I can be your voice and be with you while we express how you're feeling and everything that's going on. Because all I really wanted for myself at that time was to go into a place of work, my workplace, to walk into a safe environment where I didn't have to be afraid anymore. I didn't have to be anxious anymore. I could just be free. I could feel secure and not have to look over my shoulder or feel, is my boss going to yell at me today, or am I going to get fired today, or have all these paranoid just thoughts, which of course was for good reason, and not being terrified. That's all I really wanted, and my mentor knew that, and that was the only intention, is to share this with the board, so then they can make it safe for me to go into work. And so I said, okay, what do I have to lose? You know, at this point, I don't know what to do. It's getting worse. My anxiety is getting worse, and I can't go on like this anymore. So he requested a meeting, and she agreed, and stuff happened there, had the meeting, and my mentor actually requested, you know, that he come just for the time while my dad's going through his treatment, going through his cancer treatment, that he can come in, because get this, I was also terrible at admin work. I was not a good multitasker. I still am not. And it would take me forever to complete something. Meaning admin work. And so he just wanted, you know, to help. And he requested if he can just come and volunteer, be my personal assistant. He didn't care what it was, if it was helping me with admin work or being my janitor or whatever, just so I can free up some time and free up some hours that I'm spending on admin work at work to spend time with my dad, to really reduce the workload, and he can come and volunteer. And they, you know, said and he put in his application and all to do that. And everything, the meeting after he left, so it looked like, it may just be a yes, and just the way they made it seem like him volunteering, asked him to fill out an application, get his police check, all that, did all that right away, like the next day. And when we left the meeting, we felt, oh, that was received well, that was great, we felt all good, amazing, awesome, we've, everything's going to be okay now. And we, went away. They said, in the meeting, I was told not to worry. I don't have to go into work with anxiety anymore. Everything, they'll handle it. And I thought, wow, this was really successful. So we walked away feeling really good about it. I went, well, at least that's what I thought. And everything, seemed to be going smoothly. Things will be resolved. And I'll just say his name's Scott. Yes, Scott would, be allowed to come in and volunteer. That's what it looked like. And it'd free up some hours so I can spend time with my dad during his journey. And so the next work day, so there's this big wall I hit. In my next work day, the next work day, on my day off actually, I all of a sudden get called into work. And me and Scott, we're so excited. Maybe, my boss wants to give me a raise or heard about my situation and is going to give me some time off. Or like we just felt something good's going to happen. And so I go in to work on my day off thinking, oh, wow, everything's going to be okay now. And I walk in, to my amazement, stuff happened there. I see this, to my shock and amazement, I'm informed that I'm suspended. And I just couldn't believe it. I did not expect this. This was like way out of left field. Yeah, some stuff happened there, the story there. And basically I'm accused of stuff that I didn't do, such as breach of confidentiality, which was not true. And so I'm suspended. And I know, and Scott knows, it was of course they would never admit it, for me standing up for my rights and sharing with Scott what I knew and expressed in our private 12-step sessions. Anyways, that was that. So not only am I suspended, but I'm also informed that I will be investigated, that will be going through an investigation for breach of confidentiality. And like the next day or a couple days after, we receive a letter saying that Scott is rejected as being a volunteer. So the response was, no, he cannot come in and volunteer for me. And this was, of course, puzzling because, wow, no one's really being rejected to volunteer there. So throughout this whole time, the wake-up call I got was, wow, these people, this community who I thought is my second family, said they loved me, they loved my work, they appreciated me, really did not appreciate me. I mean, Scott has been telling me for the last couple of years that, the more free I do work for them, the more they won't appreciate, and they just will appreciate what I do for them. And I didn't want to believe him. Like I still saw the best, that no, they love me, they value me. Because again, I had a very low self-confidence, low self-esteem. And so in my world, in my mind, I just wanted to believe that I was valued, that I was appreciated, I was good for something. And so it was like this big epiphany I got. Wow, Scott was right. Their true colors came out in a time of need, a time of desperation, a time of, I've never really asked anything of them before, let alone my boss. Like this was the first time. It was big for me. I stood up for myself. I never do that. Not there. Too afraid, too scared, to feel like, they're like, that it's wrong of me to stand up or ask for anything. And the one time I asked for something, I get a slap on my face, and not only that, get suspended, My career is threatened, my job is threatened, everything I believed in is threatened. My whole world collapsed and crashed around me. And so that was a big wake-up call for me. That these people would go to any lengths to hurt me, to ruin my reputation, my career, my job, everything I knew, to intentionally do that after just being this model employee. And that was a huge shift for me. And so the plan just shortly after that was, according to Scott's suggestion, I mean, he's been telling me this before about the Ministry of Labor with unpaid wages, and I just didn't want to do it. I felt, no, these people are good. Like, I felt so guilty even complaining or suing them, like going to the Ministry of Labor. No, I cannot do that to the charity. I cannot do that to the clients. Like, that was what was going on in my head. But after this wake-up call that I got, these people don't really appreciate me, and they would go to any lengths to just hurt me. Well, all I did was just express myself and stand up. That I cannot work these hours anymore. My dad has cancer, and I need to spend time with him. And they knew this. Yet they still attacks after attacks after attacks after attacks came at me, where I couldn't take it anymore. And so upon Scott's guidance, I finally reluctantly agreed, because I knew at this point I needed protection. It was beyond myself, and so I did go to the Ministry of Labor right the next day after I got suspended, filed a complaint with Scott's support and guidance. And that was that. Stuff happened, of course, in between that. The attacks continued. In fact, Scott ghost wrote all the letters and letters because, again, I was in trauma. I became very depressed. I actually was very distressed. And so my mental health, my mental well-being was just deteriorating enormously. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think. I couldn't let alone speak or communicate clearly. Like, it just would not make sense. And I was just in so much fear. The fear of losing my job, now it happened, even though I couldn't really be fired because I filed a complaint with the Ministry of Labor, but I felt like I had already lost my job. There's no way I can go back now. And so, the case, and Scott wrote all these ghost letters between their investigators, their lawyers that they sent at me, their top lawyers. 8 months later, it took about 8-9 months for, the case to be resolved. But before then, I was just going back. The attacks kept on coming, and it was just too much. And I just got very depressed. I missed that human connection with my clients. I became very isolated. At that point, I became unemployable. It ended up that, yes, I had to quit my job because there's no way I could go back into that environment. It was more even unsafe after what had happened. And so you would think things would get better after I quit my job. No, they got worse. I became unemployable. I felt very undervalued, depleted, felt like I lost myself. And I just became more and more worried and depressed. I went into very, very deep, dark depression. And the plan there was daily human connection, doing a Facebook Live every single day, daily, which has been the result of me doing now over 800 Facebook Lives in a row since April 2017. And that brought alive what was called 1111, which Scott created around me. Because I was so depressed, wouldn't want to wake up in the morning, he created 1111, where there was consistent human connection. And so my mentor created 1111 for me so I can get out of my head, give me a reason to wake up in the morning. What was that? Was having someone come in and doing a Facebook Live with them, and the rules were no selling, no promotion, just daily human connection, getting to know each other. And the whole backdrop and essence was that for me to get my daily human connection and having it done every day. And in the event that I didn't have a guest, I would go on my own timeline and I would connect with someone till someone connected back in the form of posting a comment. That was the condition of me not, if I didn't get a guest in the studio that day or they canceled or whatever, that was the condition for me as a result to get my daily dose of human connection, because it had to be every day. And 11/11 was a great achievement. I say to date, it's the most successful thing I have done. After doing it every single day, first of all, without even being expected, Scott got me through Scott's marketing, even though it wasn't not the intention, it was just getting one person that day. But 11/11 was just so well received, the concept of daily human connection. And me sharing and expressing through video. And I shared my story a lot, even though that at first may not been the intention, but just like I was very vulnerable, and I was the most vulnerable on these 11/11 broadcasts with my guests or with myself doing, Facebook Live. I just shared my heart out. I cried. There are times I cried. I bawled my eyes out. I laughed. It was just a whole fireworks of emotions. And I was as open as I've ever been in these 11/11 broadcasts, and then through 11/11, Scott got over 300 guests in here in the studio through 11/11. In the first 2 months that it was put out there and created, we didn't expect it, but we got 60 guests to come in and be with me, connect with me on a Facebook Live. And it was always on their timeline connecting so their friends can see this conversation and get to know another side of them. At the same time, I got to connect with the person in front of me. So my daily connection on video, whether it was with a guest in the studio or going on my own timeline, connecting, that daily connection every single day without missing a day, connecting with another human being, is what had me recover initially from my depression. It's what made me stronger every day. Scott even noticed I was becoming happier, my vibration was changing, I was starting to just come out of myself and start to love myself again and really feel like I really felt validated. And what even had me even more so, because all I wanted through that journey was to be vindicated, for people to know that I wasn't wrong for standing up, that I didn't breach confidentiality. Like, this was my career, and my career was threatened, and it was everything I knew, my profession. And it was very important to me that people knew that I was not in the wrong. And 11/11 gave me that, because people who came in here, many of them were like a mirror reflection, and they heard my story, they validated me. Some of them had similar experiences and said, I wasn't wrong, I was right to speak up, and that, it was making a difference for other people. And at that time, I needed to hear that, because I just had such a low self-esteem, and I was making myself wrong, and I felt like a bad person. And an achievement besides 11/11 during that journey, I actually won. Scott won for me. 8 months later, after I filed the complaint with the Ministry of Labor, I won the case of unpaid wages, and I was vindicated. And I won And the Ministry of Labor ordered my employer, previous employer, to pay me $30,943.71. And I won that. And that really vindicated me. Wasn't so much the money, but it was just, I just wanted that validation, that vindication. And I won the case. Another achievement was throughout this journey was my following on Facebook grew. Now, keeping in mind, before this, I never was a video person. I never did a Facebook Live. I never would want to be on Facebook, never let alone had my picture on there. I was so paranoid. And to do a Facebook Live every single day at that time, because I just knew I had to just trust and follow Scott at this point. I couldn't trust my own mind. And I had nothing left. And so all I knew to do, as I trusted Scott, was to share. Didn't know exactly at the time why I was sharing. It just all came out, and I was just as vulnerable as I could be on video. And ironically, through me doing 1111, even though we said we never monetized it, it was just purely connection. You use the word peer. We'll never accept money for it. Ironically, what ended up happening through me sharing my story, constantly sharing my journey consistently on video, on Facebook Live, I got my first 11 grand client who actually came on 1111, but she didn't hire me for 1111 because, we weren't monetizing it or anything like that. It was just what it was, right? Connection created for me to help me get out of my depression. It just ended up, that other people need this connection. They loved it. And so it became a bigger scale. And so my first 11 grand client drove 6 hours out of town just to come and be on 1111. And then, yes, the connection grew. I kept in touch with her. And what really attracted her, and she shared my story, because she was going through a similar thing in her life, and she could really relate, and she just loved my story. She was watching me on video. She saw me. It's like she already knew me when she walked in, and eventually she wanted to hire me to help her with her own stuff, her own life, her own business, and she even said it herself, that I was the only person who could really help her because of what she saw and what she could relate to from my story, from hearing my story. And so what happened, Scott is mentoring both of us in the background, me and my 11 grand client, and this was the first 11 grand client that I had as, working as an entrepreneur or becoming on the verge of becoming at the time a full-time entrepreneur. This gave me certainty, went from hope to certainty that someone believed in me, someone trusted me enough to actually help them and get paid for it. Where I thought, no one's going to hire me. I'm unemployable. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to market. I don't like asking for money. And out of nowhere, this person sees me and wants to hire me. Yes, it was a process, but my story initially connected her to me and is willing to pay me 11 grand to help her. And so Scott is mentoring me in the background on how to work with this client and how to help her. And so he has both of us listening to a clip of Abraham Hicks every day. And so the structure was, we listened to Abraham Hicks, both of us, every day for 30 days. And then we call each other after we listen to the clip of Abraham Hicks, and we just share on the phone what we got from listening to that clip of Abraham Hicks. That was our daily structure, and we did that for 30 days in a row. And so progress was happening and evolution was happening clearly. That could be seen. In fact, my client or previous client, before even I knew her, for 17 years, she was in a dead-end job, working at this bank, being controlled, being just herself, being terrified like how I was of her boss, feeling ridiculed, not appreciated, undervalued, being also abused by her employer, and feeling like she couldn't speak up, because same thing as me, afraid of getting fired or being reprimanded. She saw no way out. She saw no way out, living also in a very cold, dead-end city, very isolated, lonely, a city which she just wanted to get out of and hated. And because of this daily habit of doing Abraham Hicks and sharing, speaking what we learned and what we got with each other, by doing this daily habit every day for 30 days, in a quick amount of time, things shifted for her. She was able to effectively and very confidently deal with the issues that she had at work, deal with her employer. She actually got time off that she wanted without being reprimanded or fired, which was what she was afraid of. And she got support from the ministry like how I did. Very similar. So I indirectly helped her with that too. I helped her navigate through the system where she's able to really find her own voice like how I did. And not feel so much like and feel in control of her life again. Feel like she does have a choice. She does have options. She does have rights. It doesn't have to be, the way she has been living, just being terrified going into work, exactly like how I was, feeling powerless. And also what happened is she ended up moving out of that cold, lonely city she hated and actually moved to Quebec. And she's living in one of the best parts of Canada. And she's even expressed to me previously that she's always wanted to live in Quebec. And now she's had her dream come true and living in Quebec. And so that's what really occurred for her, what shifted for her through doing this daily practice. Very quickly, her mindset transformed, her psyche transformed, and it was like her whole vibration transformed, and she attracted all these great things in her life. Exactly what she wanted. And then what Scott does, once our client relationship, a for-fee services ended, where the contract ended, that was for a fee, but somehow I was just so appreciative of this client that I just wanted to give her more, even if it meant for free, and not charging her extra, because she really gave me a chance, a shot that I didn't see coming that quickly in my entrepreneurship journey. Just after, I went through a deep and dark depression, was doing 11-11, and she came into my path. And so I really wanted to continue that connection, that relationship. And so Scott, is intelligent, and he sees the big picture of how this could serve her and serve me, so it doesn't hurt me at the same time by doing more for free without getting paid. So he found a way. He created a private membership site, which was originally just for me and for her, my client, or previous client, I should say. And the membership site was just so we can continue this mindset daily habit that we were doing together with the Abraham Hicks. But this time, instead of doing phone calls, because again, the for-fee services had ended, so there were no phone calls at that point. So what we were doing, or what we had to do as a source, so we are just connecting and sharing. We would listen to a clip of Abraham Hicks every day for 30 days in a row, and then we would, right away after listening to it, we would do a video sharing what we got or what we learned from that clip, and post inside the membership site, and then post a comment acknowledging each other for something that we appreciate about the person, or about their video, or about their message. but it has to be something positive, an acknowledgement of appreciation. And that's what we had to do for 30 days in a row. And Scott chose this hand-picked and hand-selected these Abraham clips that he knew would benefit us according to the journey we were on at that time. And so we continued that daily practice and that daily habit in this private membership site together. And so the key was just to keep this habit alive and continue this connection together, this relationship that I wanted to still continue. And the video that we recorded right after listening to a clip of Abraham was unlisted, so only us two can see it inside this private membership site. And so what's very interesting without very quickly that happened, without even knowing exactly what I was selling or being a good marketer, just through doing these daily Abraham clips, and my mindset really shifted. And very quickly what happened, like without even having a concise, clear offer, just out of blue, just out of the blue. I mean, yes, you know, and so what's interesting is, without even knowing how to market, knowing what I was selling, without even having a clear offer, just getting that 11 grand client through video. She saw me in video and came in. What that led to more clients that same year that came in through the membership site, because now the membership site grew beyond me and her at that point. Very organically just came to be. It started with me and her with just the intention of us connecting, us maintaining this daily habit, keeping it alive and engaging with each other. And that just grew and propelled itself. And at the same time, not sharing this with anyone, and we're just like doing this daily habit. But what ended up happening was I got another client that same year for 22 grand. And through that, what also happened was Scott found a way, just all organically happened, to allow just friends of our paid clients to come into this private membership site. As it was working, it was growing now, it was becoming a life of its own. And so it was still wasn't available to the public, but allowed this client's friends to join the membership site and do these clips of Abraham with us, do the video, share what we got with each other, and then of course post a comment of appreciation every single day. And so to allow them to come into this membership site for free if they would like to, and because it was for free at the time, they had to do the program for 33 days in a row. To create that daily habit means listening to a different clip of Abraham, doing a video, sharing what they got, what they learned, and then posting a comment of appreciation of a different member in the program each day as a reply to their comment. And also, and what happened through that, another client ended up hiring me for 11 grand. And then another one that same year or shortly after that. And then another client ended up paying me 14 grand. In the end, just for my coaching clients alone, over $70,000 came in that very year. And so this private membership site was just created for me, my paying clients, and allowing our friends just to come in and be part of this membership site if they wished to, and do this daily practice and do this daily habit, changing our brain, changing our way of thinking, our vibration on any issues that were important to us. And so Scott created custom playlists in this membership site to help us achieve just that. Whether it be mental health, whether it be family issues, whether it be relationship, whether it be grief or loss, any playlist that appealed to us or related to us, he would create for us to do inside this private membership site. And then from there, what happened is we decided that we had something proven. It was working. Clients were coming back, or the members were coming back reporting that, they very quickly made that month or whatever through doing this daily practice. 20 grand came in, and they knew it was from this daily practice. 20 grand came in their business. Someone else, other people shared that they learned to love themselves through doing these videos, appreciate themselves where they have never done a Facebook Live before, a video alone before, that they got comfortable with doing video. They became better communicators as a result of that. And they'll be reporting all these other wild stories. Someone else reported as a result of doing Abraham Hicks for 33 days in a row that they got a job out of it that they wanted. They knew was as a result specifically of Abraham Hicks. And so we got all these, and so these members would be reporting all these wild stories just as a result of doing Abraham Hicks daily for 33 days in a row. And not just, not just doing Abraham Hicks, but doing it with the intent of sharing it on video with what we got, what we learned. We're speaking it, and we're sharing it with the community, with other people. That's what made the difference and the impact.